First up is the infamous pack-in title, Cybermorph. Cybermorph is a 3D spaceship game where you pilot a Cybermorph ship and go around blowing up enemies and collecting pods that contain important technology to help defeat the evil Panitia Empire in the Galactic War. The game doesn't look fantastic, but despite what some say, I think it looks better than Starwing, Star Fox if you prefer, and the fact that is that Starwing wasn't a 3D roaming game like this one is. Whilst the polygons aren't textured and the draw distance isn't the best, the game is playable and actually it's pretty fun. It may not be as complex as some games you'll play, but it's good for playing for half an hour at a time, and there are plenty of missions to keep you entertained for a while. It's also worth noting that the game itself uses a controller overlay to make that intimidating row of numbers seem just a little bit less scary and a lot easier to control. Overall, the game is about £6 to £10 on Amazon, so it's the cheapest Jaguar game to buy, and you probably won't regret doing so. Next up on the list is Hover Strike. Initially this is going to be a follow-up to Atari's 1980 arcade hit Battlezone, but it turned into Hover Strike pretty early in development, and if I'm honest, I'm glad they did that. This game shows the power of the Jaguar a lot better, with textures and some great gameplay. It's a very similar concept to Cybermorph in terms of story, but again there are plenty of missions to keep you going. And if you get or have a second Jaguar controller, you can play a chaotic but really fun session in 2 players, where you control the ship together, one moving and the other guy aiming and firing. It's really fun, it's mad, it's pretty chaotic, and again it's about £6 to £10 on Amazon. This is definitely another title you'll really want to pick up. Moving on to the more famous Tempest 2000. This is a great game made by Llamasoft with Chef Minter at the helm. You battle through 100 levels of mad arcade tunnel shooter action whilst raving to a banging techno soundtrack. The graphics are okay, but the game shines in its really addictive arcade style gameplay. It's pretty simple, but you won't want to put it down. The only disadvantage is that if you choose to get it, it'll be about £30. But to be honest, it'll be the best £30 you will have spent. From tunnel shooters to first-person shooters, let's have a look at Doom and Aliens vs Predator. Doom packs in the great gameplay and smooth graphics of the original PC version, but unfortunately doesn't play music during levels. However, it does have 27 of those levels, and all the usual difficulty levels, so you'll be enjoying this for a very long time. As with many Jag games, this one comes with a battery backup in the cartridge, so you can easily save your game and continue without hunting around for passwords that you've written on a bit of paper and lost. Alien vs Predator, on the other hand, is more of an atmospheric game, with a silent ship and deserted halls. You'll be creeping around as the Marine, shotgun clenched in your hand, tense, when an alien jumps out at you and tries ripping your throat out. The graphics are some of the best on the Jaguar, and I can see why, with the option to play as the Predator in Alien 2, this game was a hit. The Predator campaign, it's more about sneaking around, slashing up the humans, only to fade back into the background, really similar to Predator 2 and the Predator series in general. The Alien campaign is a bit more of the same, but you're running around faster than everyone else, which is in play with the story, and you've got to try and cocoon enemies and get the face huggers on them so they birth into new aliens. That, I think, is a really good feature. Unfortunately, though, that does mean you have to backtrack quite often playing the Alien campaign. I'm not personally a huge fan of this game. I think certain elements are lacking, but all in all, the quality is really good, and it can be found for about £20 to £25, which is pretty decent for Jaguar standards, so it's well worth getting. Checkered Flag, on the other hand, is not worth £20. It's a racer that is in the vein of virtual racing, but unlike that, the game is no fun. There's no arcade-style racing in this, but it isn't in-depth enough to be a good simulation. Plus, you only have 5 opponents. The tracks aren't designed very well, and all in all, the game is pretty disappointing. Also, the championship mode is crap, as you have to sit through like an hour and a half of boring race action. It's still worth getting, but not for very much. You're probably talking about £10 to £15 at maximum. If you like Mortal Kombat, then you might like Kasumi Ninja. It's a very similar game, but it plays more like Virtua Fighter, although there are fatalities and there are loads of weird, zany combo moves. With only a punch, a kick and a guard button, it does make combos pretty difficult, but it kind of makes the fighting feel like it's more raw and powerful. The graphics are decent, and the game plays pretty well. It's funny, and I don't think the game is taking itself too seriously. For £10 to £15, it's great fun. Getting onto the home stretch now, and we take a look at Bubsy the Bobcat and Fractured Fairy Tales. It isn't great. There are loads of bad puns. The game is way too hard, and it just looks mediocre. You can kind of see that Atari wanted to make a mascot out of it, even though it wasn't their series. But it is okay once you get into it, although you have to kind of wonder who the game is actually set for. Despite the childlike veneer spread over this game, you've got an insanely hard difficulty level. So, who are you aiming for, Atari? But it is, as I say, it's pretty fun once you get into the playing the game, and a decent price of about £10 to £15 means it should be considered as an addition to a collection. Finally, we look at the PC port of Syndicate. Now, I love Syndicate. It's got some really deep, dark graphics and moody gameplay, with music well suited to the game's futuristic and dystopian atmosphere. In control of a small corporation trying to make it big in the world, you send your team out to kill people and capture territories. However, it's let down by one thing: control. The controls, even with the Jaguar controller and that massive number pad, cannot be fitted onto the gamepad, and so you often find yourself pausing the game and having to look at the manual, which just kind of takes away from the atmosphere and the immersion, which in the end means that you should probably go out and buy yourself a complete version of the game. So handily, a price tag of £17 for the complete copy means you should probably get this one. Well, that was the Atari Jaguar, a fine system, and one that I will continue to love for a long time. It's a shame it wasn't so popular, otherwise I'm sure it would have had a better name today. Now, if you don't have a Jag and like what you saw here, on eBay they can be found for about £30 to £60 depending on how many scraps they've been in. Now, all I need is the Jaguar CD. Until next time, dudes.